This is the ERP Advisor.
Today's episode, ERP Customization Conundrum, best practices for implementing your ERP system.
Thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar, ERP Customization Conundrum, best practices for implementing your ERP system. Sean Windle is our speaker for today. Sean is the founder and managing principal of ERP Advisors Group based in Denver, Colorado. Sean has over 25 years of experience in the enterprise software industry, helping hundreds of clients across many industries with selecting and implementing a wide variety of enterprise solutions. His podcast, The ERP Advisor, has dozens of episodes with thousands of downloads and is featured on prominent podcast platforms such as Apple and Spotify. On today's call, Sean will discuss how to prevent the downfall of your ERP system during an implementation through the application of best practices. Sean, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for joining
Good,
me today.
you bet. It was close,
Yes.
but I made it.
Yes, you did. Thank goodness. With like 30 seconds to spare.
Oh,
But here
I
we
still
are.
had 20 to do something.
No one
but
would have ever known.
I know, right? It's great. Thanks, everybody.
So, oh my gosh, there's a lot to consider when it comes to implementing a new ERP system and best practices,
Yeah.
right? A lot of
Yeah.
moving pieces. So with that, I was going to ask you, you always hear that businesses demand best practices from their ERPs. What do they really mean by this? And where are they coming from with this mindset? Like, what are they hoping for?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, but it's it's huge. Like when we started talking about, this potential topic, I was like, whoa, because and my daughter who does the transcripts, you watch, she's going to write like, whoa, in the transcript. she's been hazing me on
She's
that.
very literal, which is very good, thorough.
Exactly. That's right. That's good.
Yes.
But every client, and we've had over 400 projects at ERP Advisors, and I've been doing this for 13 years before ERP Advisors, so hundreds of clients before then. Almost every single client has worried about this issue. So it's a big deal, and I'm really glad that we're covering it. I think maybe Rebecca came up with this topic. Good job. Somebody came up with this topic. Maybe it was Erica, but this is great. About best practices. Yes. Okay, good. So spot on, very apropos for every deal we're doing today, to every deal we've done, and every deal we'll do in the future. Right. I'm going to give you kind of the, let's see, kind of what is sort of the normal description or the normal situation, just so we can start in with where everybody's at. Then we're going to go to the real deal.
Okay. Sounds good.
Cool. So here's what's happened in ERP, right? Along the way, with lots and lots and lots and lots of ERP implementations, from SAP to old JD Edwards to old Max, right? The reason why I was almost late was because I was at the ECI conference, which is here in Denver. So I popped over to that, which was great, as you know. So that was good. And I'm looking at all these apps, right? And thinking about all these customers that have implemented over the years. And when, especially in the 80s, the 90s for sure, when software would get implemented, somebody on the implementation team would say, hey, I want to set up purchasing this way, or manufacturing that way, or projects this way, or accounting that way. And the person who's doing the configuration says, well, but that's going to be a customization. And the client's like, well, it's my software, so do it.
Right.
Okay, cool. They do it, right? Or they say, well, I don't have a choice because that's how my business works. Or they say, I don't care, I'm going to quit in a year anyway, or whatever the reason the reasons are that the people that are driving the requirements say, this is what I want in the software. So great. The software developers they're great people. They are probably some of the biggest people pleasers I have ever met in my entire life, from all kinds of different people, like a baker or whatever. Oh, I want to make all this stuff for you, right? That's kind of how software engineers had certainly been, was like, sure, I can build that out. That's cool. I'll build it.
Right.
Boom, I just built it. Great. Okay, that's $50,000 extra. Oops.
Because nobody thinks to ask
I know.
what the additional fee would be if they're buying a new ERP as it is, right?
Back in the day, you didn't even think about it. I bought the ERP. What do you mean it costs more to customize it to my needs, right? So there's just a lot of misunderstanding. So that then led to a lot of systems that were customized. And then a couple years later, okay, it's time to upgrade. And then the or the software vendor says, ooh, yeah, if we upgrade, remember those customizations? They all go away.
Oh gosh. So then you have to start from scratch if you need them customized again.
Exactly.
Oh boy. For a whole nother fee?
For a whole nother fee.
Oh boy.
See, you are like an expert.
Hardly, but
It's true. Because so then what would you do, right? If you spent, say, $1 million in customizations, 2 years later, they're like, hey, you need to upgrade your software because there's a few more features, functions in there. Maybe there's the new 1099s. Maybe there's a patch or whatever. What would you say to that?
I would probably go find another ERP that contained it all,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, you could, right?
Yeah.
But then how much are you going to spend on that?
That's true.
Right?
That's
Because
true.
but you got a bunch of other problems in the business that you're trying to handle. So you would probably just say, no, thanks.
I'm not going to upgrade.
I'm not going to upgrade. Right? I'm not going to go through all that.
If
pain
you
and
have that
anguish.
option.
If you have the option. And in reality, a lot of businesses and nonprofits and other organizations do and did. Because the software was good enough, the way it fit. And then to do the upgrade, they look at the money and scratch their heads and
Yeah.
say, what's the benefit here? Oh, I get off the upgrade path. Well, I don't really care. I don't need all that new stuff anyway. I'm barely using 20% of what I have. So, I'll just stay, right? And, that it makes sense. I mean, that's the thing is that people in this industry, they make decisions because they make sense.
Right.
But the long-term impacts of that are then they do not get the really important patches, the security issues, or there's bugs in the software, right? And they can't take advantage of that because they've gone off the upgrade path. They're on their own path.
Oh boy.
I know.
So if someone's already investing the amount of money that these ERP systems cost,
Yeah.
isn't it just wouldn't it be common to just have best practices included?
Well,
Right?
that's what you'd think,
Right.
I mean, you're like every CEO, every CFO, every client that looks at me and says,
Right.
"Why I don't understand this,"
Seriously.
right? Because it's true. Doesn't work that way. No. So your best practices for your business, they're just not my best practices for my business. We might be in the same vertical industry. We might be even in the same micro vertical. We might be like talking to the guys today. We might be process manufacturers for ingredients companies. You might have an ingredients company and I have an ingredients company. So we go buy software and we try to find the best practices in the software. But, my company does a lot of international business, let's say, and say your company doesn't, or your company has a lot of recipes that you deal with and I don't. So in those areas, best practices might not necessarily be your
One
practice.
size doesn't fit all.
That's
for
it.
sure.
That's it. That's it. So the common line here with customization and ERP has been what I just went through. Folks bought ERPs, they customized the heck out of them. They couldn't upgrade and they were landlocked in their ERP. And they're watching all their competitors or whatever. Some new person comes in and says, hey, we want to do a, omni-channel sales, right? Oh, well, you can't get that from the vendor because it's only available in the new versions. Or we really want to automate, we want to do AI and analytics with these new tools that Infor is offering with Burst or whatever. Ooh, sorry, we don't have that rewritten for your older version because you went off the upgrade path. So the long story short is, again, this is the traditional story, is companies, organizations, they took these ERPs, they did build them out for what their needs were, then they couldn't upgrade. Fine? Cool. Now everybody knows this.
Right.
Everybody knows this. So what do they do now? Oh, easy. Usually it's the CEO, who can be pretty high level. No customizations in the new ERP.
Didn't you say you were going to have a t-shirt
T-shirt made.
Yes,
That's right. That's right. I still haven't actually done that.
Yeah.
Got to do that. Maybe we'll make like a little banner and fly it in the. Well, and you know who we would have fly it and probably jump out of an airplane?
Will.
If he's not too busy with dates or whatever. I don't know.
Right.
We'll have to ask him later.
Well, he could go on a date and
Do that.
out.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, I want to go with him, not on the date, but on the jumping out of the plane. Well, okay. Anyway.
Rebecca, have that t-shirt made.
That's right. Sean wants to jump out of an airplane. And no customizations. But seriously, like we the mantra, we just had a kickoff here in our office with 30 people for a big project that's national.
Right.
No customization. It totally makes sense, right? But now here's what the real. Does that all make sense first off?
It makes sense,
What
but I
questions
think
do you
there are some businesses like you have no choice, but you have to have a customization, right?
Right.
So what do you do in that case?
Yeah. So now we're going to talk to the real deal.
Okay.
So you just do it. And the reality is that you do it, you're smart about it, and you're doing it. Because where just like everything else we talk about, right? Where the risk is that you're responsible for a project, right? Let's say you're project sponsor. Those are the people that I hope are hearing this right now. The people that's jobs are riding on the success of the project.
No
like
pressure.
mine is. Yeah, exactly. And so, they start implementing, and then, somebody, maybe a mid-level person's working with the consultant, and they realize there's a change in process for purchasing that we have to do. And not just a purchase approval workflow that's always different, but maybe there's an extra step that we have to do. So we have a purchase request, and then for whatever, there's an authorized fund expenditure like in oil and gas, that goes first, and then there's the purchase request, there's a purchase order. Okay, well, the software we buy doesn't have AFEs, they're called, in it. So what do? Well, we can either do it manually, but the mid-level purchasing or budgetary or projects kind of AFE kind of responsibility person says, hey, I got to automate this because we do a lot of these. And I got to have this in the system. Okay. Hopefully that got identified in the demos. Oh, the app doesn't support it. So we're going to add that. Oh, great. How much is that going to cost? So earlier, hopefully you find that out.
You
right?
ask that instead
ask
of
it.
like doing the customization and then having to pay
That's
no
right.
matter what.
Right. That's ideal, right? But there's a lot of times where in the selection process, maybe they're not as structured as ours are, whatever. And sometimes we miss things, very honestly, too. So whatever. So you get in, you do the analysis, and the person says, I have to have this built into the system. Good. So then the developer, the consultant looks at that and says, okay, we don't do that. So let me go off and think about a couple different ways that we could do that and come back with some options for you. Good. So you can do it A, B, or C. Option A is you just do it manually. You keep track of it in spreadsheets. Did you know Excel is the biggest ERP in the world, by the way?
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I don't care if it's Fortune 50 or everybody
It's
uses
not
Excel.
QuickBooks.
It's not QuickBooks. It's right below.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's Excel.
So, and I don't want to get into all the details. Apparently I do, but this is so important. So the developer comes back and says 3 options. 1, you do it manually. 2, well, I can create a custom record called an AFE, and you can enter the information there, and then you can just click save and it's in the system. Or, as they wink their eyebrows and they start winking, what you really need is put in the record, and depending on the amount and this, we want to route it to that person, and then we want to check the actual project budgets and whatever kind of crazy things come up because they love pleasing you. And they're like, I heard your process. I can automate that for you. I can save you 10 hours a week by building this. And the other person on the other side's like, you would do that for me?
For a fee?
Yeah, for a fee. Exactly,
Right,
for a fee.
yes.
That's right. Okay, but does that person pay the fee?
I don't know. Do they?
No.
They don't.
No, of course not. See, that's where it gets tricky, right? Like if you have a contractor in your house, they're like, I'm going to build you a marble bathroom and it's going to be beautiful. And you're like, ooh, that's going to cost me a lot of money. But if you're the AFE specialist, right, you're of course going to think, okay, this is going to drive some expenditures to the company. The company's going to have to pay for it. But it's saving me time, so why wouldn't the company want to pay for it?
Well, that's true.
Right? I mean, this is going to save me, I'm just kind of using some wild numbers here, but 8 hours a week of my time, I'm not going to have to do it anymore. I can focus on the more valuable, the value add tasks that all that basic stuff now just happens in the system. So, 8 times 50 is 400 times, people make, $50 an hour fully loaded cost. And you're talking about a lot of money all of a sudden that could be quote unquote saved. But okay, so the developer comes back and says, okay, this is going to be $50,000 to develop it, or $25,000. You look at the savings, and maybe there's like 8 people that do this process, and it's like, well, there's the savings right there. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do it.
Like in the grand scheme of things, that 50,000 isn't much.
It's not much. That's right. So boof, we build out the AFE process, test it, it works fine, go live, and everything's fine, right? Except then when we want to upgrade later, the upgrade kills this AFE logic because it's not in the base product. And some of the apps are written to be able to handle this kind of stuff better than others, frankly. But all those customizations get wiped out. So guess what? We're right back to where we started.
So have any of the software companies learned from that?
All of them.
They all have. Okay.
They have. And that is a great question. Yeah. Basically, that was for Sarah, my daughter. I love you, honey. Thank you. Anyway, basically, all of them have. And so when you look at sort of next generation architecture apps, those written in the last 20 years, they have layers where you can put your business logic specific to you, right? But now where it really gets interesting, though, is with like cloud apps. And we had a really good conversation. I was really impressed with Oracle on a deal recently, where they said, to life sciences firms, they're required by the FDA to certify their software, that it works, that it tracks lot numbers for the ingredients, even for packaging and stuff that goes into food products and other kinds of lotions and potions and body beauty products and things that are applied to the body, right? You have to be really careful with that. And Oracle did a really good job very early on in saying, look, we are pure cloud. Every couple months, we roll out code in the app. And if it changes your process, you have to revalidate. It's a validation, it's called.
Okay.
You have to revalidate. But a lot of our clients, they build out a validation process, and then they know exactly where the changes are, so they just have to revalidate those couple areas.
They don't have to create it from scratch.
Exactly, right. And it's actually kind of a best practice. So the bottom line is that yes, the newer vendors they've considered this, they've built it out. It's still dangerous. We had a client in one of the newer products that had a bunch of code wiped out when they did an upgrade, because there was a fundamental platform change in their workflow engine, and they built a ton of workflows, and poof,
They were
gone. But they were able to test that and find it out in advance. So, man, I'm exhausted after talking about all that. I mean, that's a lot, but that's what really happens. Is like, and that's why I am excited to share this topic, Juliet, because it's going to happen. You're going to customize. And I was talking to a vendor a couple days ago. Rebecca and I were. I'll just say this, at Infor, and it was a gentleman, I think we're going to do a podcast with him later too. I'm super excited about that. Super technical, not operating system, but sort of focused on their kind of tool set. And we were chatting, and I remembered even when I was back at J.D. Edwards in the early 2000s, like, these customizations are the benefits. These are the things that take the company's value for the software just through the roof.
That's right.
Because they can automate their business. They can make allow their people to focus on the more important things. So the right thing to do is don't say no customizations. It's just say to all of the people involved, like, imagine you're going to pay for this customization, right? You may. That really changes things.
It really does, right?
We'll take it out of your departmental budget at least, right? But imagine you're going to pay for this. And just give me the case for this. And then what happens is the accountability goes where it should, which is down to the people in the trenches. And they should be thinking with, whoa, I could see this real benefit. It enables them to look at this and say, this could really change our business. But there is a cost to that. What is that cost? I want to understand that cost. And, we might even do like a drill down on this for other folks to this specific topic on how to do that.
Right.
Because it's pretty simple. But you know what I mean? It puts the accountability where it should be then.
Well, it's almost like the cost risk benefit,
That's
right?
it.
And in the long run, is the efficiency worth the cost of the fee that they would charge, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
So, okay, you have to customize. Can a company over customize?
Oh, gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they can.
And
Yeah.
not worth it.
Not worth it. Yeah. Yeah. It's, I I feel like we should start the country music track. Doom, 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 digga doo. So what happens when you over customize?
What are some of the specific problems that can happen to a company when they do that?
You're gonna get fired.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's like my tip to everybody in a very politically correct way of saying it, that just be careful. You
Now,
just need to be
fired
careful.
because of the cost or just the mistake of what they've chosen to customize?
Keep going.
The list.
I mean, yeah, the list just goes on and on,
Okay.
right? Like, so you build this whole thing out and then boom, the person who builds it out leaves, they get a better job. Or guess what, that person internally who was part of all that customization, guess who then turns around and hires them? The consulting company that did all the customizations, because they know the product. Oh, but there's, you can't hire per the agreements and everything. Okay, well, they'll go anyway, right? It's really, really dangerous unless you know you're doing it. Again, that's what it comes down to, right? So this is good because, again, all these podcasts we've done, we've never talked about some of these things. It's incredible. When you buy packaged applications, who is that app written for? You?
Well, I would say just like generically overall, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just generically overall. I mean, it's like buying a candy bar. It's not really made for you, you know?
Right.
You go and get a burger someplace. I don't know. Maybe some places it's not like this. Or you get food from a restaurant. I mean, they're making it for the customer who ordered it, whether that's you or not. But it's a little more custom, right? Software, packaged applications, packaged enterprise applications by default are not made for you. They're made for a general customer that is in a specific vertical, and maybe even a micro vertical, right? But it's not made specifically for you.
Well, why? Okay, I don't even know if this is the right question, but why wouldn't they make it for someone specific
Right.
and then and if someone didn't need all that, they could make it more generic. They could just start taking things out.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they do something like that?
Well, and there's some products that are, well, let me think through that a little bit.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And that's how a lot of enterprise software vendors started, was they took a platform, a development platform, and they wrote a solution for a specific customer, right? Say a manufacturer, right? J.D. Edwards. That's how J.D. Edwards started. Ed McVaney and those guys back in the 70s, I think it was. They were writing mid-range based solutions, the AS400, the I-Series, the I. They were writing applications, accounting systems for mid-sized manufacturers throughout the Midwest. And they're like, I wonder if we could make a system so generic that instead of having to do this for everybody,
Just for manufacturing.
just for manufacturing and
for
accounting,
any industry.
or even any manufacturer. There's a lot more manufacturers out there than the one we're working with. So they did sort of genericize the tool so that it would have the key core processes in it, but then it could be configured or customized to meet the customer's specific needs. And so that's why these platforms are written, where you can extend them, you can configure them. I love it when somebody says, well, I call this, what do they say? There's a phrase and you got to the hairs on the back of your neck should go up. Well, I don't call it customization. I call it extension, or I call it heavy configuration, or whatever. You're like, oh boy, I know what this means. You're gonna customize.
That's code for.
It's code for. Look out! And again, the problem isn't the customization. It's 5 problems. The first one is we thought whatever was in there was not right. So we thought that AFE functionality was in the app, but it's not. So now you just miss somebody's expectations, and they're going to be upset, right? But the second thing is, okay, then how much is it going to cost? Oh, it's easy. It's like my house projects. It's going to take 1 day. So I learned this early on, where you multiply the number times 2, and then you take the whatever the other part is, the increment, up to the next one. So 1 day project's going to take me 2 weeks. Unequivocally. It's just going to be an hour. Okay, that's 2 days.
Yes, right.
for a house project. It's kind of the same. So the second thing is, when they estimate, they always estimate incorrectly. And guess which way? Do you think it's less or is it more? Right.
Of
it's
course.
always more.
Yes.
Always going to be more.
It's going to take more time and cost more money.
That's right. Always. Yeah. Then they start doing it. And then the person who asked for it's like, I don't know. And so then the developer starts making assumptions without talking to maybe other people who they should talk to, because they got to build this thing, right? Then they finally build it and they put it out there, and it's not quite what the person wanted because the person didn't know enough to tell them what they wanted until they actually saw it. And then they could give feedback on it and say, well, that's not what I wanted. And the developer's like, I just recorded the conversation. This is what you told me to do, but I can't say anything because I'm trying to be nice because I want to please you. So what do you want? Oh, I want this, and this, right? And then, just like ching, 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 you can hear the
coins.
coins.
We can make any change you want.
We can do anything you want, right? And then the fifth and the last piece is that finally the person who gets the budget, or the boss, or somebody who's sort of got, some kind of oversight or responsibility for this, because by now the project's late, because the developer was supposed to work on other things instead of this customization. It's a complete surprise to that person at the top. I mean, there's probably 5 other problems, but those are the first 5 that come to my mind. So the person at the top says, like, what in the world is this?
And then that's where that other person could lose their job.
Right. And we don't want that. So anyway, I mean, we're going into a lot more detail than usual. We usually kind of keep it fun and light, but we are coming off of Cybersecurity Month.
This
so
is true, right?
Serious time.
Yes.
Anyway, there you go.
Well, are there any key indicators when a system is on the verge of being over-customized?
That is a good question. I mean, there's the typical thing of, well, the software vendor just looked at our instance and said, if we upgrade you, you're going to lose a whole bunch of customizations. It's too late by then, right? So maybe a little bit earlier, the people who were involved in the implementation quit because they know something's wrong, right?
And they don't want
to be around for
dry for it. Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is hard. Yeah. It's hard. Oh gosh.
Well,
hard.
There's another thing you say too, like choose an ERP, like your job depends on it, because it does, right?
The implementation partner specifically. And that's the other thing is when that's the real indicator, okay, is when you're in an ERP implementation and the implementation partner starts to dance a little bit. Okay, so how are we really doing? Good. Okay, wait. Like, that was weird the way you just said that. What do you mean by good? Oh, everything's fine. Okay, now I'm getting really weird. It's like, interrogating a child who you come home and, like, your house is a wreck. And they're like, nothing happened, But you really do need to have that open, honest conversation with your implementation partner, and not just the lead whose answer is to say good, and then they listen to your question.
Right.
It's really to have a really good relationship with everybody top to bottom on both sides, on the client side and the implementation partner side. But the implementation partner is the one who has the power to make these changes. I'm thinking of a very specific project right now where the developer was like, I'll do anything you want, lady, just get off my back.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was bad.
And was the customer asking too much?
Well, she was, but her boss's boss, who was really in charge, was like, no customization. And this lady's like, no customization, except I need it to work this way, this way, this way, this way. And you guys are behind, and you need to get this done, so get it done. And the developer's like, oh my gosh, I guess so. I mean, it makes sense. I didn't know about all this, but I can do it. $1 million later. And,
and it's ultimately not her decision to make.
And it wasn't her decision to make. And then they fired her 3 months later.
Oh boy.
And the company's stuck with this stuff. So I missed some of the indicators even on that one. I ended up going everywhere around the world. I had like 5 places to be in like 4 days in Germany and whatever. And just to see what was really going on, we had lost track of it too. And so it was really interesting to talk to the people that were really in the trenches, the users, to see what was really going on. And sure enough, there were a lot of changes, and especially in an entity, a business, where they've acquired a lot of other businesses and they're trying to come together, but they're not really.
Right.
And you have one developer out here sitting with this part of the company that's saying they want this, and another developer saying they want that. And we're not communicating, we're not talking about what's best practice, and the implementation partner is not saying, stop, don't do this. We've got to get approval from up above before we do anything, right? So you got to keep your eye on who's the real customer from the implementation partner side. Like, who are we really going to do this for? And it's not necessarily those regional people or the lower level people. There is somebody at the top that ultimately they really are betting everything on you, on your team. And you need to make sure those people are engaged. On the client side, you have to have, like I said, that relationship with the implementation partner where you can say, what's happening, right? And all this stuff is sort of easy. I always think with that, like, so why are people still doing this, right? Because why is it still happening? The real problem comes down to, and maybe we've already lost people on this call because I've been so technical, but that's what happens. Like, the developer says to the senior person, okay, so you've got this new process, and we saw this at this region and that region, and we looked at this and we did the process mapping. Usually by then the executive goes, thunk.
Yeah.
They're like, well,
They're lost.
sure.
Yeah.
I trust you. Right. So, but the person will try to explain what's going on, and then therefore, blah. Like sometimes on our Monday morning calls, our data guys will.
Oh, right.
They'll talk about what they're doing, and I watch everybody. And
Everyone starts checking their phone.
That's right.
Yes. Right.
I got my eyes on you guys.
Exactly.
Rebecca's all over.
One,
She gets
one, because we don't know it.
Exactly.
And two, it's like, well, it's well over my head,
Right.
and the technicalities of it. But to them, they love every second of it, right?
Right.
But I would
Right.
think that, like, for a CFO or a CEO, like, the whole point of bringing in this implementation partner is because you don't know how to do it.
Exactly.
Right? And so when they start talking all these technical terms and things, like, unless you know, like, you're like, but wait a minute, like, I don't know. That's why I
don't know.
hired you.
And if you tell me this is what I should do, then I trust you. I don't have any other choice.
Right.
That's what happens.
That's right.
And then the cycle just goes down from there, because it is always more complex than anybody thought, and it does take more time, and there's assumptions that people make, and we're all trying to do the best that we can, except for a small percentage of people that are trying to sabotage the whole thing, and you wipe those people out of your project right away. Those people are gone. Now you got everybody who's like, look, we're working our hearts out here.
Yeah.
So that's why that communication, like sometimes you have to get, the toothpicks to keep your eyes open when the technical guy's like, stop, tell me really what you're doing here.
Right.
Oh, well, we're adding this new field or we're adding this new table, and it's going to take me about 50 hours to do it. Okay. Why are we adding a new table? Because this person asked for it. Okay. I know that person, and I know they know their job really well. I'm going to go talk to that person. Stay here, developer, right? You go over and talk to the person. Why are you doing this? What is this for? Like, didn't we buy this? Didn't we get best practice? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, I know. I thought so too. And I thought it would work like this in the demo. But when I saw it, it actually works like this. Are you really sure? I really am.
Well, that's where you have to trust the person that's in that position that is asking for that, right?
That's right. I mean, it's the famous phrase that everybody who's listening to this is thinking right now. Trust, but verify. And verify with the right people, right? Not just the developer says, sure, I'm going to go develop, right? They're not like that.
Yeah.
But, go back to the subject matter expert who's like, I know this process. I understand this software. And you also can sort of get a gauge on them like, I don't really think you do know what you're talking about. Let's go find somebody else who does, right? It's worth it to spend the time to do that. It's a little extra upfront time and effort. Blah, 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 blah. Like we always talk about, find out what you need, then go do it, and then do it.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, one more question.
Yes.
I think we're almost to the end of our
Great.
time. But if you are having too many customizations, like, is that an indication that maybe you've chosen the wrong product?
Oops. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is. It is.
Okay.
I mean, it's one major indication, right?
Okay.
And I'm thinking, which of my clients have over-customized because we chose the wrong product right now? Let me get past that. Ooh. Okay. But here's the other thing, too, is that things do change, right? So, there can be a different model that we have now than before. I'm trying to think of some specific examples here. But the other thing is, again, not all customizations are bad. So I'm thinking of one example in particular that took SAP actually, knowing that it wouldn't have all the processes that they needed, but it does have a very elegant customization and application development framework.
Okay.
as do some of the other ERPs, but you can find people that know SAP customization. And I mean, people listening to this call right now are probably going to call us and say, oh my gosh, are you saying I should customize SAP? That's what got us into this whole debacle in the first place. And I'd say, well, you fueled a lot of kids' colleges by doing that for the implementation partners. No. But what the real reason is, because there was a reason why we did it before, and we're going to do it better going forward. The platforms can handle those customizations. But if you think about being able to automate your business processes for real, like this particular client was a platform company where they're purchasing other professional services companies throughout the world. And there was a lot of overlapping processes. Everybody was doing the same processes differently. So we said, this is the global way we're going to do billing. And we're going to automate this so that time comes in, it gets approved, it goes into the bill. We check some AI, different things for quality on the details against the business rules and the contracts, and then we push it forward and it goes to a person to approve, and then they approve it. That process was going to end up basically letting about 30 or 40 people around the world go do something else. I don't think they're going to let them go. I don't think that's real. Right. But now those people can go and figure out how to optimize the bills. They can handle customer issues. They can go do something better than just create a piece of paper, basically. I mean, it's electronic and all. And it was a very custom billing process. So a lot of customizations, right? But it's going to change the world for them.
Wow.
So it is a conundrum. Well done on that word, Rebecca.
Right? Yes,
Very much so. It is a conundrum. You don't want to do so much that you get off the upgrade path, but the beauty of the cloud-based systems is you really can't. They force you to upgrade.
Right.
So you gotta face your maker a couple times a year, right?
And
that's
you
not
have
a bad
to
thing.
look at those customizations to see if they're actually working and what you need, right?
Yeah, when the new code comes out.
That's right.
So that's good. And you can really, I mean, 10 years from now, I don't know what we're going to be doing, right? Because everybody's going to automate the heck out of their businesses. It's happening. Every customer wants that. The digital transformation, composable apps, all this stuff, web 4.0, industry 4.0, web 3.0, I think it is. All these technology trends are all leading towards more automation. So the more you automate, the more the custom process, the more the business benefit is. Hopefully it should be, with all the right things that we talked about. I mean, you could change an industry. If you look at Uber, what all Uber did was they just automated taxis.
That's right.
I mean, there's a lot more to it than that.
Yes, for
but
sure,
you had a
but-
platform that the driver and the passenger could all work together on, and then there was some AI in between, right? It's happening and has happened in many industries and will continue to. So I think the bottom line is, that's a strong word, but I'm going to just say it. It's a little bit ignorant to say no customizations. But I think people, especially leaders, have to say that just so that people are like,
To
whoa.
limit the customizations.
Exactly. Because if you're like, oh, sure, it's fine.
It's a
they're like,
free-for-all.
oh, yeah, I'm going to build this thing out exactly as I want.
Yeah.
And then I'm out. And then
Yeah.
good luck with that. Nobody understands it because, Jane Smith just quit and she built all that stuff with the developers. That's the
right.
worst case.
That's right.
So I think if we're open about it and we're focused on it and there's a business case behind the customizations, I think you're okay.
It's worth it.
It's worth
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
As always, we could continue this, and maybe we will.
Yeah.
In the new year. For
You got
sure.
it.
So thanks again.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again today. Please let us know if you have any questions. We're happy to help in any way you can. You can email Sean, myself. We're happy to help. Be sure to join us for our next webinar scheduled for Thursday, December 15th, Lessons from the Trenches, and ERP Implementation Consultants Year in Review, when our expert ERP consultants will take inventory of the lessons learned throughout 2022 to help prepare businesses looking to tackle and conquer an ERP implementation in the new year. Please go to our website, erpadvisorsgroup.com, for more details and to register. ERP Advisors Group is one of the country's top independent enterprise software advisory firms. ERP Advisors Group advises mid to large-sized businesses on selecting and implementing business applications from enterprise resource planning, customer relationship management, human capital management, business intelligence, and other enterprise applications, which equates to millions of dollars in software deals each year across many industries. This has been the ERP Advisor. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.